What peptide should I take next? This is the #1 question all of you guys ask me in my comments and my DMs. I get it over 200 times a day, and my answer is the same every single time. Get your blood work done. But here's the problem. You can't just walk into any clinic and say, please give me a blood work that's going to tell me what peptides I should take. Nobody's going to be able to give you that. So in this video, I'm going to teach you guys everything that I look at in my biomarkers that helps me decide what peptides I'm going to take next and what I need to stay away from. The biggest problem I see coming in the health industry is everyone's just injecting and taking anything that they see online because someone else told them it was good. But what they're not considering is what's on the other side of that coin. What happens if you take something that your body doesn't need, or worse, that your body completely rejects? How do I know what my body needs and doesn't need? How do I know what my body's going to reject? The answer is, and always has been, blood work. And by the end of this video, I aim to put a stop to this blind injection and blind supplementation for good. Before we get started, it is important to note that I'm not a doctor, and this is definitely not medical advice. If you're going to follow through with any of the things that I talk about in this video today, make sure you're only doing so under the direct supervision of a medical professional who can guide you properly. Everything we're going to talk about today is just my own acute experience that has always been for science and your entertainment. Now, let's begin. Starting with what is, in my opinion, the most overused peptide for people that don't need it, all of the growth hormone products. Now, don't get me wrong, this is my favorite peptide of all time, the testosterone and ipamorelin blend. If you guys saw the last episode, you know that it has had incredible effects for me. But the reason it works so well for me is because I had low IGF levels. A lot of people out there that are taking this stuff don't have that problem, and they're wondering why they're not getting jacked, ripped, and shredded. The first biomarker to look at if you're going to look at any growth hormone product is IGF-1. IGF-1 is the main messenger that your liver produces when it receives growth hormone. Its job is to tell your muscle tissues it's time to grow and repair. The typical good range on this is somewhere between 120 and 250. If you fall anywhere below 100, Tesa-IPA is going to save your life. That's where I was. I was at 87, which for somebody who works out as much as I do, and for somebody who has the diet that I do, 87 is criminally low. Now, this is an unfortunate truth for a lot of us today because our food supply, our water, everything that we do in a modern world is designed to disrupt our hormones, growth hormone being one of them. Now, there's also a range that's too high. More is not more all the time. Anything above that 300 threshold is probably too high. You could even make the argument that 250 might be too high. When it comes to growth hormone, you don't want to overdo it. This is when you create life-threatening problems. IGF is going to be one of your most important biomarkers when it comes to the rate at which you're going to be able to develop and grow muscle. If your body is a big construction site, growth hormone is the boss who yells, guys, it's time to get to work and start building. Your IGF-1 are the actual employees who are carrying the bricks to go build the building. But if you just add more IGF, more workers to an already fully staffed construction site, you're not going to be able to build any faster. You still need more bricks. Then it becomes a safety hazard, guys are tripping over each other, and your body starts to have problems. Now, I want to preface by saying these are not all the biomarkers in the world that you could possibly look at. I know there's going to be some blood work elitists in the chat that are going to say, oh, well, you should have had this. I can't believe you don't have that. For those of you that have additional suggestions, I am more than open to hearing them, and I actually want to, but it's also important to understand that these are just the core foundation of what I look at. It is not the end-all be-all. Biomarkers 2 and 3 when it comes to growth hormone are fasting insulin and HbA1c. These are going to show you how well your body handles sugar, which is really important when it comes to anything insulin related. Insulin is like the security guard that opens the doors to your cells so that energy can get inside. When you have high insulin, that guard gets really tired. So throwing more and more growth hormone at it is only going to knock that guard out even more, so much to the point that nothing is getting into that cell. For fasting insulin, anything under an 8 is usually ideal. 3 to 6 is the good range. And for HbA1c, I'm looking for anything under 5.4%, usually gives me the green light. Next, I'm checking the liver, specifically AST and ALT. These are the enzymes that creep into your liver when your cells get stressed. When your liver gets overly stressed, you can't produce any quality IGF-1. For both AST and ALT, I am looking for anything 10 to 40, ideally under 30 is best. The last two things I like to look at when it comes to GH peptides are free T3 and morning cortisol. Now you might be asking, what do those two have to do with growth hormone? I'll tell you. Free T3 is going to be the main hormone that looks at what the speed of your metabolism is. This becomes incredibly important when you're messing with things like Tesa-IPA, which are going to drastically increase how hungry you get. Because if you start stuffing your face and you don't have any kind of level of metabolism, you are going to get fat and you're not going to get the results that you're looking for out of this Tesa-IPA. These two are really helpful for identifying what you need to pair with your Tesa-IPA, whether that be another peptide or supplements, to make sure that it's going to work the way that you want it. Your morning cortisol is, of course, your stress hormone, and stress has a huge counteraction when it comes to anything growth hormone related. Free T3, I'm looking for anything between 3.2 and 4.5 pg per ml. Morning cortisol, anything between that 10 to 18 range is usually pretty good. Moving on, phase 2, another really popular hormone, testosterone. This one is pretty self-explanatory on a lot of them. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys, oh, make sure you check your free T and your total T to know if you should take TRT. we're past that. But there are some products that you guys are really interested in, some of the ones that don't turn off your fertility, some of the ones that don't cause as much hair loss, body acne, and some of the other DHT-related side effects. I'm of course talking about Enclomiphene and HCG, even Kisspeptin. Enclomiphene is, in my opinion, one of the most pivotal products when it comes to our hormonal production that we're going to see over the next 10 years. Because what we're seeing more and more today, and this is coming from someone who has seen thousands of lab panels from people in their 30s and below, almost everybody has low testosterone. And it's not because that our bodies just don't produce hormones anymore. It's because the connection between our pituitary and our testes has been completely blocked by things like xenoestrogens and other contaminants and other heavy metals that are completely destroying our endocrine system. The reason I think Enclomiphene is going to be valuable in the future is because that's exactly what Enclomiphene fights against. It tells your body to strengthen the connection between the pituitary and the testes to produce more of your own testosterone instead of injecting it exogenously. Typically, Enclomiphene, if you look it up, will tell you that at best you're going to get a 2x in your testosterone if you're lucky. But as someone whose company has prescribed this to thousands of people, we're seeing people get 3, 4, even 5x on their testosterone because the demographic for who needs this stuff has changed so drastically. The older guys, anyone over 35 who didn't grow up with all of these plastics and toxins in their food and water, don't have this problem. But the younger guys are the ones who are utilizing Enclomiphene and getting TRT-like results because their body can now finally establish a connection between their pituitary gland and how their body was naturally supposed to produce hormones. This is a new discovery and hypothesis that I've been putting together that has proven itself to be true time and time again. I think this is going to be the forefront of hormonal technology that we look at as we go forward. I think a lot of people are going to veer away from TRT because they're not going to need it. For the longest time, we thought everyone's hormones were just shot, gone for good, but it's really just because the connection has been disrupted, not the actual production itself. Enclomiphene reestablishes that connection. So how do I know if this is my problem or not? There's 2 or 3 things to look at here, and that is definitely your estradiol is one of the first, and I'll explain that in a second, your LH and your FSH. A lot of times we see this problem occur because estrogen is binding in the receptors so much that it's causing a blockage upstream that is not sending a signal down to produce the testosterone. This is also how we know that this problem is a new generation problem, because all these problems didn't start until we started pumping ourselves with estrogen. There's 2 main factors, in my opinion, that are contributing to this. This is not part of the normal video, but I do think it's important to note. Number 1 is after 1990, we started putting all of our food and water in plastics. And as we all know, plastics emit xenoestrogens the longer that anything that we eat or drink is in them. They are direct contaminant. Number 2 is around 1985, we started putting every woman on the planet on birth control. And if you didn't know this already, our drinking water is a direct source from our toilet water, and there's no filter for estrogen. So we put every girl on the planet on birth control, have them pee into our water supply, and we can filter out all the other contaminants, but there's no filter for estrogen. So now we have a 2-pronged approach where we're getting attacked in every angle, from our food packaging to the water that we're drinking, that has destroyed our estrogen balance. This is why that you see 18-year-old boys, 20-year-old boys that should look like full-grown men that look like 12-year-olds of the old days. Meanwhile, girls are 12 years old looking like they could be 25 because there's so much estrogen being pumped into them that their hormones are running rampant, and we wonder why we think women are crazy. It's not their fault. Look at your estrogen, look at your LH. If your estrogen is high, and this is going to be in direct comparison to your testosterone, so I can't just give you a range, but if your estrogen is high in comparison to your testosterone and your LH is low, then Enclomiphene is typically a good option. Now, of course, when it comes to any hormonal product, we have to look at our testosterone itself. Anything above 700, you're good. You really don't need to do that much. If you want to be at that 1,000 level, great. That's where I sit at. I usually like to sit at 1,100, 1,200. I feel the best at that level. I can understand if you want to increase a little bit, but if you are anything below that, it's really important that you understand what's going to be the best for you, because there's no reason to make yourself infertile if something like Enclomiphene exists and will work for you. SHBG will tell your body if it has access to the testosterone that you're even producing. That's your free testosterone. And the higher the SHBG, the less free testosterone that you have to actually use in the body to build muscle, to burn fat, to have energy, for all these things. Anything under 40 is typically good. If it's higher than that, we're going to want to supplement to drop it down. To complete the testosterone trifecta, Hematocrit is also one of the most important things to track. That's going to be just your blood thickness. Testosterone has a tendency to thicken your blood if you have that gene, and it can cause several problems. A lot of that comes from your red blood cell count. So if you start veering over 52% on your Hematocrit, there's actually not much supplementation for this. I would just go donate blood. It's kind of like an oil change. It'll thin it all out. Moving on to the next category, which has become abundantly popular, and that is fat loss peptides. So that's going to be your GLP-1s, your MOTS-Cs, anything that's going to be designed to burn more calories or stop your hunger. When it comes to any of these, the real thing to look at is heart risk disease. Your metabolic function and all that stuff is great, you want to make sure that you're not going to die. ApoB is going to be the best marker to look at when it comes to cardiovascular risk. ApoB counts the actual number of particles that can stick to artery walls that are in your bloodstream. The reason that's important is that's the only way that plaque gets built up, which is going to stop those arteries and those veins from being able to transfer blood to the heart. The maximum I would say for anybody who wants to do any fat loss treatment is 80 mg over DL. Ideally, you're under 70. I like to think of it kind of like this. We've got our cholesterol and our ApoB. Imagine we're on a big highway and it's got a traffic jam, right? Those are your arteries, those are your veins. And cholesterol tells you the total weight of all the cars on the road. But the ApoB tells you how many cars are on the road, how fast they're going, and if they're going to cause traffic jams. We can have plenty of cars on the road as long as everybody's going straight. But once things start sticking and causing enough traffic jams, that's when we have a problem. Fasting glucose is going to be really important for MOTS-C and retatrutide because it's going to tell us how well our mitochondria is working. Now, there are complete separate mitochondria blood panels that I've been doing that are phenomenal, that give full breakdowns on this, but I would look at those more when it comes to, do you want to optimize every function of the body? But if you're just looking purely at fat loss, fasting glucose will give you a really clear picture on how well MOTS-C or retatrutide might be able to improve the rate at which your metabolism and your fat burning happens. Because really what it's telling you is how well your cells use energy. So if your cells are struggling to use the energy that they have, adding in something like MOTS-C can be revolutionary. Now we'll go into what I think is most people's biggest problem that they are not addressing, and that is inflammation. And I do believe almost everybody could benefit from things like BPC 157 and TB 500, as long as they don't have any cancer risk or anything like that. But here are the biomarkers I would look at. The number one most important for me is hs-CRP. This is going to be full body inflammation, and it's going to tell you a baseline score of how much inflammation is in your body. If you watch this page a lot, then you've probably heard me say inflammation is the death of all peptides. Almost nothing you're going to take will work if your body has inflammation, because in order for the peptides to get into the bloodstream, they need to pass all of these layers. And if they can't transport throughout the body because they're hitting a wall of inflammation, they're never going to have a positive effect. If you've ever heard anybody mention before that I bought peptides and they didn't work, number one, those people are few and far between. But if they do have that problem, I could almost guarantee that this biomarker is probably off the charts. Ideally, we want this to be under 1 milligram per deciliter. Really, we want it under 0.5, but anything under 1 is considered okay. Next thing I'm looking at is for those of you that are into the brain peptides, the Semax, the Selang, the pinealon, anything to increase BDNF or any of cognitive function. I am looking at a few markers. One of the most important is homocysteine. Funny name. Homocysteine signals oxidative stress and poor methylation. It typically builds up when you're low on vitamin B and creates a ton of inflammation in the brain, which reduces BDNF, our brain-derived nootropic factor. Having high homocysteine levels is like having toxic sludge on the brain that just make it completely a shell of what it used to be. So if you're experiencing brain fog or you're experiencing some cognitive decline, this is a really good biomarker to identify if Semax will help you. Because if you have high homocysteine, Semax and Selang can both be incredible when it comes to improving those numbers. Mixing this with some B12 and folate to give you a long-term clean of the brain can give you unreal results. Not just to the point where you don't have brain fog, but so much so that your brain is offering even more output than it was before you had the problem. Next thing I'm looking at is for those of you that are using things like GHK to improve the quality of your hair and your skin. Number one thing I'm looking at, for me, hair has been a concern. I look at ferritin and vitamin D. Both of these can directly contribute to hair loss, and if they're out of range, can cause the hair to become weak, brittle, and even shed. Although I just buzzed all my hair off, I do like to keep it looking a certain way. GHK has been a tremendous help for me because ferritin was an issue. You should also directly be looking at your copper levels, which is going to play a huge role in everything aesthetic. If you want to really go down the rabbit hole, you can start looking at things like collagen to understand how well and how much your skin is producing new skin cells. Of course, your morning cortisol can be managed with things like Selang as well as DSIP. The list goes on, and I constantly post videos like this to keep you guys at the cutting edge of what is going on in the health and wellness space, because I don't believe anybody is truly doing it for themselves, and a lot of people have bad motives out there. So if you never want to miss a video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and if you like these kind of videos, make sure you let me know in the comments so that I can make more of them. And if you ever want to get a blood work for yourself, I do always link it in the description. I will see you guys in the next one.